Welcome to Season 1, Episode 1 of PhD Foundations Academy, Brain, Data, and Practice.
Yeah, and today's deep dive is titled, The Nervous System is a Team, Not a Switch.
Exactly. So since you're a Year 2 doctoral student, our mission today is to, well, map out that nervous system mental model. We've got to bridge the gap between biological mechanisms, observable data, and actual clinical practice.
Right, because, you know how tempting it is to just look at a singular biomarker and declare victory. To really get this, we have to throw out that old on and off switch analogy.
Yeah, the nervous system is not a light switch. It's more like a modern car's traction control system.
Oh, that is a much better mental model. It doesn't just toggle between drive and park. It's continuously making these, micro adjustments based on real-time sensory feedback.
So if we look at the team, the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord, is the decision center. And the peripheral nervous system acts as the messenger. And within the PNS, you've got the somatic, which is voluntary and sensory, and then the autonomic, which is the automatic regulation.
Exactly. But let me stop you there, because we have to talk about how they coordinate.
Oh, right. Let me push back on the classic autonomic breakdown we always hear, where the sympathetic branch gets labeled as, the bad stress response, and the parasympathetic is the universal calm button.
Yeah, that binary is probably the biggest myth we fight. It's not a seesaw. Healthy regulation requires flexible adjustment to context, not just, permanent calm.
Because if it's a traction control system, sometimes you need to speed up, right?
Exactly. You don't always slam on the sympathetic gas to deal with stress. Sometimes the system just eases off the parasympathetic brake to allow for a faster heart rate.
Okay, so let's ground this. Imagine a veteran with a history of PTSD and a mild traumatic brain injury, an mTBI, and they're in a driving simulator.
Right. Very common scenario.
Their heart rate spikes, their shoulders lock up, they're constantly scanning the mirrors. Your first instinct as a clinician might be to say, oh, PTSD trigger.
But what if the data is, telling a much more complicated story? We need to clearly label our evidence here.
Good idea.
It is established that divisions like the CNS and PNS coordinate bodily regulation, and it's established that PTSD involves altered threat responses. But it remains highly uncertain that any single biomarker, or a short recording, can diagnose PTSD or isolate that mTBI as the root cause.
Which brings us to the researcher's corner. Let's do a quick pause and predict.
Love it.
If you're observing this and heart rate rises in a driving simulator, what can and can't you conclude?
Well, the answer is you observe a change in heart rate, period. That is real.
Right.
But you cannot definitively conclude PTSD caused it. You can't conclude they felt fear or that only sympathetic activity was involved.
Because observations are real, but causal explanations are just hypotheses until you evaluate alternatives.
Exactly. Did they sleep poorly? Is it normal traffic stress?
So in Clinician's Corner, how do you apply this? Instead of jumping to conclusions, you ask about context, right?
Yes, you look at the whole picture. Does their avoidance reduce short-term distress while secretly maintaining long-term fear? Clinical formulation is about integrating data.
Not turning one physiological signal into a diagnosis. And emerging research actually suggests we need multimodal profiles for this, combining eye tracking, behavior, and psychophysiology.
Spot on.
All right, time for your 1-minute teach-back. When this deep dive is over, mentally explain this entire network to yourself and articulate why a rising heart rate is an observation, not an explanation.
That distinction is absolutely everything. So let's synthesize with our 3 key takeaways. First, nervous system divisions coordinate. They do not operate as isolated boxes.
Second, regulation means flexible response to context, not permanent calm.
Right. And third, measurements provide evidence about a construct. They do not equal the construct or prove its cause.
Great. And for your Tuesday challenge, write down one research question about our veteran driving example, then underline the words that still need operational definitions.
That'll definitely show you where the gaps are. And I'll leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. How might the clinical act of constantly measuring a physiological response, like hooking a patient up to monitors, inadvertently alter their lived experience of that very stressor?
Oh, a true observer effect. Fascinating. Well, remember, mastery over memorization.